How's it going, guys? All right, today I just wanted to talk about my competition 47, some of the things that I've done to it. Mostly, I want to talk about the modifications I did to this Timney to really maximize what I could out of the trigger itself. Takes a little bit of modification. They do provide like that set screw that takes out that pre-travel, which is really what I was able to work on, or what I wanted to get out of the trigger. Still breaks at 3 pounds regardless of the connector, so that is also really fantastic. And then some of the fixes that I did for how sluggish the Timney usually is. That's one of the biggest complaints that at least I've heard, is that the trigger speed on the reset is kind of slow. So it's hard to ram off a couple your doubles and whatnot in competition if that trigger is really slow coming back. So let's walk over real quick. This is clear. I'm sure you guys can see in there. Okay. Chopped CNH precision brass insert. I did the double cut myself. I think these guys are called Primatia now or something like that. It used to be a different company, but I like that up there because I have a really high support hand and I will always pin that thing down. Lead and steel PB3, Ape Defense Cap, love them. But that's basically everything else is stock inside besides the trigger. Recoil spring, same. The firing pin, all those things are OEM. But let's talk about the trigger. So where I have it right now is, so that's the pre-travel. That's all that I got. Boom. Reset. But really the biggest part was taking out as much of that pre-travel as possible. The Timney has a set screw that allows you to take out that pre-travel, but when you start doing that really any more than when it comes out of the box, the safety blade doesn't drop down anymore. So once you pull it in, it'll just kind of, actually, I've got my other one over here. This is clear. This is an unmodified Timney. Basically, if you start taking out that pre-travel, let's say you wanted to sit back there, that safety blade is no longer engaged. It has to be all the way out there. So it's like your ability to really take out any of the pre-travel and keep this blade are really small. So you have to kind of do something about it if you want to maximize it. I had to modify the safety blade to make sure it dropped down, but there's quite a few other things you need to do while you're modifying this trigger to keep the three safeties that are in a GLOCK. So the three safeties being the blade, you've got the shelf that the cruciform glides on. The shelf keeps it from dropping down prematurely. And then you have the, what's it called? The pin block or whatever that's in the slide. I'll walk through those as we're going. And then I also have a over travel pin or whatever, or screw that I installed in the back. I got it from Home Depot or something like that. That kind of cleans up on both ends of this trigger. So let us talk about the steps doing this. I got to take this off camera because YouTube doesn't like it. Okay, so got this apart now. Let's talk about the steps you're going to take to actually start maximizing this thing. So pre-travel, there is that little screw up there. I will try to show it to the camera, but if you're watching this video, you probably already own a Timney. There's a set screw up there, and all that set screw is really doing is it's prematurely pulling this trigger. It's just pushing it back. As you're screwing that in, everything is moving backwards. So you need to make sure that you are staying within the safety tolerances of your gun. Biggest one being is the safety shelf that the cruciform, this thing, I don't know if that's what it's called, but that's what I'm going to call it, sits on. Focus. Sits on. So basically, as you're pulling the trigger, it moves back. It's going to be hitting your connector. Connector is pushing it downwards, and then it is lowering this, which lets your striker move off and fires a gun. So you do not want to, using the set screw, take out so much pre-travel that this falls off the shelf. So as you're pulling it backwards, if I can put some pressure on this thing. So you're pulling it backwards. Once it's off the shelf, this thing just moves. I don't know if you can see that very well, but it moves up and down. Moves right down on top of there. So with the trigger fully forward, even with the set screw, you want to make sure that this thing cannot, got zero movement on it. I don't know if I can actually get it with the camera. Might be better on this side. So this, God, the lighting right here. This is that little shelf that I'm talking about. That's the cruise form inside of it. As it moves back, it slips off, and then it can fall down and basically engage that and let the striker go. So as you are using that set screw, basically what I did is, with everything straight out of the box, you're going to want to pull the trigger. Gotta keep putting pressure on this, and then find out where you are still safe. So it might be better to show you on the one that's not modified. Give me one sec. So unmodified. So we got this. This is a Gen 3, so it looks a little bit different, but in essence, it's all going to be the same thing. See? Oh, focus. Okay. Putting pressure on it. We're slowly pulling it back. Pressure, pressure, pressure. And then that is where the shelf is. So you really have all that space to work with. So let's say you want to take out some of that pre-travel. I would take it maybe here. And you're still putting pressure on it. Oh, that's a little too forward. So back it off just right there. Pressure. See, it's not going to be able to go down. You want to keep that on that shelf securely. So basically what I did with this was I used that set screw, pushed it back until I had maybe like, this thing's on the edge of being safe, to be honest with you. Like 1/8 of an inch of that shelf left, if my camera will focus. So it's still on that shelf. There's no way for this thing to slip down on top of that and let that striker go prematurely unless I'm pulling the trigger. And then even with the modified blade, with this thing pushed all the way back into the frame, we're still maintaining that. It's still on the shelf. So as you're modifying that, make sure it stays there. Using that set screw to push it back to a safe area. You're still taking out a good amount of that pre-travel, but you want to keep this safe. Once you have moved it back there, you want to make because it's going to be sitting basically up there. It's not going to be able to sit, the safety blade, it won't be able to drop free yet. Put a little mark on that so you'll know where you need to basically file down the safety blade. So let me actually show you what that looks like. Okay, let's wipe this down a little bit. Okay, so this, if my camera will pick it up, is what it looks like now. Good amount of filing, but you're able to get it free of the frame so you can actually use this as the safety plate, or as it's intended to, even with taking out a good amount of that pre-travel. The way I did this is file, put some tape on it so I'm not damaging too much of the actual trigger itself. But you're going to want to start here. This is where the original piece was. I don't know if you can see that. And then I just filed all the way down until I was where I had marked for it to drop free. Now when you're doing this as well, you don't want the blade to drop down just exactly where the frame is, or else you're going to have to basically, as you're coming to engage the trigger, like it needs to slip off of the frame in order for you to start doing it. Give yourself just like a little bit of space, so as you're pulling it, it's able to clear the frame as you're pulling back, or else you're going to have like the trigger is going to get stuck on the frame if you're shooting really fast, and then you're basically mess yourself up. So find out where it needs to be, file down to it, then you should be good. So that's how you do it. You're basically gaining function of, or gaining back function of using that safety blade. We're keeping it on the shelf, so it's not engaging this, you're not firing that off. And then the third one, which is almost more important with the Timney, just because like Timneys technically aren't drop safe, but this is the only thing that would save you if you dropped it and it popped off. This is the only thing that would save you from popping off a round. Because even if you're messing up with everything back here and it lets a round go, if this isn't engaged, this pin won't be able to get past it and fire off a round unintendedly. So this has to be depressed all the way, right? In order for that pin to go all the way forward. Boom. So when it's up, pressure, I'm putting pressure back here, it's not able to go down. As we're going down, then it's able to come forward, and that's going to be what's firing off the round. I would tolerance check that and make sure that this thing actually needs some serious pressure, or it needs to be fully engaged before it goes down. You want to keep, it's basically this part here. This part here is what rides and then is going to be pressing down on that as your trigger is moving backwards. That disengages it so the pin can go all the way forward. This is what we need to modify, because the original angle is more like, it's more like that. Basically, we need to modify the angle so it's more like this, because when it's more rounded like that and you're bringing it back, it will be prematurely engaging this. We want to keep it away from that, so it's not engaged until the very apex of this is crossing over, which is when you're firing the round. Again, all it takes is a file. You're changing the angle, but what you need to do not do is do not file anything off the top of this. This needs to stay exactly how it came out of the box, because if you start changing the dimensions of this, or if this doesn't go as high in the slide as it usually does, then this won't be fully depressed or as depressed as it was designed to be when this pin is flying forward. If you start messing with that and this pin, or the pin block isn't engaged as much as it should be, that pin flying forward will start shearing off. It's going to start damaging the pin, damaging this. We do not want to do that. All we're doing is change the angle, so when this thing is sitting close to it, it's not prematurely engaging it. That makes sense. And then how you kind of figure that out is you can either like eyeball it, or with your back plate, if you get an extra back plate, start cutting down the whole bottom part of this thing off so you can actually see into it. And then you can test out as you're pulling the trigger if it's starting to engage or not. I did it off of feel, to be honest with you. So basically you can file, and then if you pull really slowly, you'll feel when it hits this first. It feels different than when it starts engaging the cruise form and all that stuff back here. But you need to do this in order for this thing not to be prematurely engaged all the time, because this is what's going to save you if for some reason you drop it, blah, blah, blah. Last safety. So modify this, we're changing the angle, we are not taking anything off the top. What else? Here is that over travel that I have in there. This basically keeps, once you pull the trigger and then you rack the slide back, the trigger has a tendency of still moving a little bit as it's coming off of this. So the bar is back here, you fired. As it resets, it'll kind of change the angle, and then it sometimes shifts back. I personally don't like that. I guess it's not really that big of a deal. But that kind of helps it not move after you've pulled the trigger. The other thing is, as far as what I did to fix the sluggishness of it, I got the Johnny Glock's extra pound return spring. My dog's going crazy over there. Extra pound return spring really helps the trigger move back quicker. Plus, the way that I have this, as you're pulling the trigger, the tension between these two also helps move the trigger forward. So you're kind of gaining an extra return power for that trigger speed, which also helps this trigger move a lot quicker. Besides that, I don't think there's anything else, but that is how you get rid of the pre-travel on a Timney while maintaining all three safety features of GLOCK. It's very important. Even if it's just going to be a competition gun, you want to keep this thing as safe as possible, while also maximizing the platform. Like I said, I love the Timney trigger. With a little bit of work, it gets so much better. Polishing all the parts that move against each other, extra power to get that movement back, and oil it. These triggers need oil. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, let me know. Yeah, cheers.